Good evening. We are back to the study of the Spirit's book. We have been doing for 2 weeks already this this chapter that is this. We are on chapter 2 of book 4, which is future joys and sorrows, and in future joys and sorrows. We are in this item called nature of future joys and sorrows. Okay, been doing it for 2 weeks, and today we should finish it. We are starting on question 978. Okay, we stopped on 977 last week. Philip, can you read for us?
Yes, certainly.
Thanks.
Does the memory of faults the soul committed when imperfect disturb its happiness even after it reaches purity? No, because it has redeemed its faults and successfully passed through the trials it had endured for that purpose.
Okay, so the question that Kardec asks here is if when we are back in the spiritual world, we remember our mistakes, our errors, if it disturbs us when we reach purity. And the answer from the spirits is no. And the example that we can use is us here. If you remember some of the dumb things that we did when you were a child, you probably laugh because you know that you did it because you were a child, you didn't know better, right? I can remember a couple of these things that I did when I was in my youth that I find it funny today, right? That I know my mother got very angry at me, and I looked at it. It was stupid, yes, but I have no regret, no guilty. It's just I was a child. So if you think of the spirits and we talk about it in terms of how much the spirit remembers when they are back in the spiritual world of their mistakes of previous incarnations, and it's something that we like to repeat here to reinforce. We will remember when we are ready and able to deal with the mistakes we made. So if I reincarnated here with my, let's say, my mom, and we had a good relationship. We grew in terms of love and care for each other, and we lived the incarnation with full love and care for each other. I'm ready to deal with what she did to me in a previous incarnation or what I did to her, because we moved on and we evolved and we fully love each other and love in the universal sense. Now, if I have a sibling here that I fought the whole life and I end this life not talking to him or her and go back to the spiritual world angry, and I'm not ready to see the reasons for that difficulty because I wasn't able to overcome. So the answer here is, as we evolve, we start learning and making amends for our errors of the past, correcting our imperfections, evolving morally, and this is morally, the moral aspect. We can deal with our past, we can deal with our mistakes without being disturbed by them. But until we are not ready to be disturbed by them, we are not going to remember the ones that happened in previous incarnations. Of course, We go back to the spiritual world, we remember everything from this incarnation. So anything that we regret from this incarnation, we carry it with us. The guilty, the sentiments of hatred, we carry it with us. But we are not going to accumulate everything from other incarnations because we are not ready to deal with it. It's going to be too much for us. We will be overwhelmed. Okay?
979.
979, please.
Do the trials a soul must experience in the future to complete its purification cause a painful apprehension that hampers its current happiness? Yes, for a soul that is still tainted by imperfection. It can only enjoy perfect happiness when it has become truly pure. For souls that have reached a certain degree of progress, the thought of the trials they still have to experience causes no pain whatsoever. When the soul arrives at a certain degree of purification, it obtains a taste of happiness. A feeling of sweet satisfaction overwhelms it and is happy in all that it sees and all that surrounds it. As the veil shrouding the mysteries of creation is partially raised, the soul begins to perceive divine perfection in its entire splendor.
So the question is here, when we are back in the spiritual world, do we get anxious about the trials and the experiences we have to go through to overcome our imperfections, to improve ourselves? And the answer is yes, because we are still imperfect spirits. We have a very good example in the book Missionaries of the Light on the reincarnation of Segismundo, and that when they go there, when they come to Alexander, who is the mentor that André Luiz is following in the book, they are saying, our friend Segismundo is having second thoughts about his reincarnation. And they go meet him, and he's very anxious and very uncomfortable, afraid of the reincarnation because he was going to be born to parents. The father, he killed the father in a incarnation before, or the father killed him, I don't remember, and the mother was partner in crime, and he agreed to repair, but then he becomes afraid of it, and he gives the excuse of an institute that he built in the spiritual world that he didn't want to leave behind because he needed his care. How he started finding excuses. So again, it shows the characteristics of the imperfect spirit. Now, when we evolve and reach a certain point of understanding and happiness, a certain degree of progress, the thought of the trials then will cause no pain whatsoever, because after we reach a certain level, we understand the necessity and we are comfortable with the challenge, right? How can we relate to that here? When you are, let's say, when you get a new job, you are anxious, you are nervous, you start the new job. Then you get comfortable in the new job, you get comfortable with those around you, you get comfortable with the work. Then you have some courses, some small seminars that will help you learn more and improve in your work. You don't get anxious for that. You get comfortable. You know they are important for you to grow on your work. So you are not afraid of the seminar, of the courses, or whatever. You may not like it, find it boring. That's a different story. But the opportunity of learning more doesn't leave us nervous most of the cases, right? It is the same here, right? For the more evolved spirits, they see it as a good opportunity to learn more and to grow. So they are not concern about it. And as we become more evolved and we get, as Kardec says, it gets closer to understanding the mysteries of creation, and we start perceiving the divine perfection, it makes us even more enthusiastic about overcoming the trials and even the atonements that we have to go through, because we can see the light at the end of the tunnel and we want to get there as soon as possible. Now, where we are now as imperfect spirits, we are still very afraid of everything, uncomfortable with our future, uncertain what's going to happen to us. So for us at this point, we still get anxious and nervous because we know that we are imperfect spirits and we have a big chance of failing in our reincarnations because of our imperfections. Okay? Questions here, comments? Okay.
980. Is the sympathetic link that unites spirits of the same order a source of happiness for them? The union of spirits who sympathize with the love of goodness is one of their greatest joys, because they have no fear of seeing that union disturbed by selfishness. In the spiritual world, they form families inspired by the same sentiment, as they group into categories and experience joy in being together. This union constitutes the happiness of those worlds. The pure and sincere affection that elevated spirits feel and of which they are the object is a source of happiness, because there are neither false friends nor hypocrites among them. People enjoy the first taste of happiness on earth when they meet others with whom they can enter into a pure and virtuous union. In pure existences, this happiness becomes indescribable and limitless, because they only meet sympathetic souls who are not saddened by selfishness. All is love in nature. Selfishness kills.
Okay, so the key word here on this sympathetic link is selfishness, right? When we are able to completely overcome selfishness, we will be able to unite with spirits with the same order and share true happiness in being together. Of course, we have some imperfect examples here on earth, right? We still are selfish, so we cannot fully understand that. But from time to time, we share companions that share the same interests, and we are able to be together, enjoying things that bring us relative happiness together, right? Being family, friends, or family friends or work colleagues. Now, the problem is we still have selfishness here, right? So we're imperfect spirit. So every time we enter into a state of competition, we cannot achieve this relative happiness. In the books of André Luiz and Manuel Filomeno de Miranda, that they describe their work in the spiritual world and their work here, you see no signs of selfishness there. And they are spirits that are a little more evolved than us, but not much. Some of them, the mentors are already much more evolved. But when André Luiz listens to the mentor and describes the conversations, you don't see any sign of envy, of selfishness. You see some signs of impatience sometimes when he wants to solve the problems, go ahead and solve the problems, and the mentor has to hold him back, right? Because it's our tendencies to try to fix the problems. But you see, you hear by his descriptions and his companions, Hilario and others, that they are truly happy with the work that they've been doing, right? So there is no selfishness. They are looking for opportunities. They want to help others. So they are happy with the work they are doing. It's relative happiness, yes, because they are imperfect spirits, but it's already a relative happiness that is higher than relative happiness that we can achieve here on earth. As Kardec says, when we share things that we like without selfishness with our loved ones here on earth, we can experiment this happiness. Now, the problem is when we allow our inferior tendencies, right? Pride, and we are studying with colleagues, and we are all working together, and then someone gets a better grade than we do, and then we get envy, or we say that it's not just, it's injustice. I study more. They shouldn't. They cheated or whatever, right? So we allow our inferior tendencies to prevent us from achieve that happiness. But if we have a true companionship with people that we love here, fraternal love, we can experience this happiness, a little bit of it. Okay.
And I think that is affinity through good. It's my translation over here, or the first sentence of the reason. Through affinity through good, or through goodness. Then yes, because where we live today, we see the world through the lens of our eyes. So we see a reflection of ourselves in our neighbors. So I know that I'm envy. I know that if have an opportunity, I will make use of opportunity to get some advantage. So I see that the other guy, the same way that I am, and that makes it impossible to have that degree of affinity of absolute trust. So this kind of answer, yes, most spirits, at least a couple of steps above us here. It's not for us yet. But it does happen, as Ron said, that when you recognize the purity of someone, we are able to trust that someone completely. As an example, when you relate, let's say, with Divaldo or with Xavier, they have some trust on their character. We trust completely. We are unable to reflect ourselves on them. Because love prevails, love is imperative, and they have a love that prevails its imperatives. So I cannot put my image, what I am, upon a Divaldo, upon a Chico Xavier, only those are like myself.
Yeah, it's the interesting point here also. Why criminal enterprises end up being destroyed from the inside eventually, because of our imperfection, the lack of trust, right? Exactly what Elmo said. The criminals, they see the other criminals thinking what they would like to take advantage of if they had an opportunity to eliminate the other partners in crime, right? So if they think that, they are sure the others are thinking the same, and nobody trusts anyone. And they betray each other very frequently, right? And it's the same thing with the inferior spirits in the spiritual world, right? They don't trust each other. They have to dominate, to impose, because they don't trust. And spirits that are working at a higher degree of evolution, they fully trust. André Luiz fully trusts the mentors, right? Druso, in this book that we are reading, Action and Reaction, André Luiz listens to him and fully trusts what he says and reflects to us what he's saying with complete confidence that it is the right thing, right? So it is in that sense that we can kind of try to understand this relative happiness, right?
And that's how you see, I mean, if you just look at the history of the Roman Empire, why did they fail? And well, the crimes that happened up there among themselves because of distrust brought their whole empire to fail.
All the empires.
All the empires.
All the empires. Yeah, exactly. Because we are imperfect human beings, and we cannot. Power is something that most of us still cannot live without, right? We like to have. So
Corrupted by power.
yeah, we are still very attracted to power, and try to we never fully trust those in power, right? We always think that they are doing something not right. So it's our imperfections, and as exactly what Elmo says, how we see ourselves in others. And okay.
981.
Yeah.
Is there any difference in future conditions between souls who were afraid of death during life and souls who were indifferent to it or even look forward to it with relief? There may be a very considerable difference between them, though this is often eliminated by the causes which gave rise to that fear or desire. Different feelings move people who dread death and those who look forward to it. These feelings determine the state of the spirit. For instance, when individuals desire death because it means the end of tribulations, the desire is an act of defiance against God and the trials they must undergo.
Okay. So when we talk about how we face death, the question is if there is a difference in the future condition between those that fear death and those that are indifferent. And the answer from the spirits is each case is a case, and depends on how why you are afraid of death and why you are not afraid of death or longing to go back to the spiritual world, right? Or to die. Many people want to die because they think it's the end. They are not happy with their life. So that's a lot of the suicides that happen in the physical world. But most of us are afraid of death because that's something that it's our instinctive nature that we bring from the very early stages of evolution, right? That we start developing in the vegetable phase. We go through animal phase. Animals try to avoid death in many ways they can, right? It's instinctive. It's not a thought that they have, I don't want to die. They just instinctive, they try to avoid death, and they try to eat to survive. They try to procreate because it's a natural instinct, and they try to survive any way possible. So that when we become individual spirits and we start our human development, we bring this with us, the fear of death, but then we start rationalizing it. Now, when we are primitive spirits, we see a person next to us dying, and we don't know what happens after. We just see someone that was alive suddenly doesn't have any life anymore. And we have no idea what happens there, right? We're talking about primitive spirits. We have no notions of spiritual life. So we are scared, afraid. What is this? What happened here? This person was living, suddenly is no longer living. And, even if we had words to describe it at the time. So for many reincarnations, we carry this fear of death. We are, now that we understand, or we are trying to understand and develop our understanding of spiritual life, we are starting to rationalize it and to try to reduce our fear by replacing it by faith and hope, right? But it's too many reincarnations, too long we carry this fear of death for us to get rid of it very quickly. And here we're talking in general. right? Because I think that those that do not fear death, it's a different story. I think it's many times is a problem with their character and understanding. So again, understanding what happens after life should help us transition. Even if we continue to fear, and I hear a lot of spiritists saying, I don't fear death, I fear the moment of death because of the suffering, the pain, or not the unknown after death, because it's no longer unknown. It may be unknown, we don't know exactly where we're going, but we have an idea, right? In Spiritism, we learn that. But the process of death is what they are afraid. The events that will lead up to our death is what we are afraid. People that don't understand that lost their loved ones and are not very interested in studying about spirituality, life in the spiritual world, they may be afraid of death because we are all afraid of the unknown. And if we don't know what's going to happen, we are afraid. That's a natural reaction. Now, individuals that want to die because they want to get rid of their difficulties in this life, then it's a different problem because they are trying to escape the challenges that are part of our journey. So these individuals will have to face the consequences of their attempt to live the physical life as soon as possible before their time. Paco.
Yeah, the ones that do want to die to avoid tribulations, that's basically, to me, it's suicidal ideation.
Yeah.
And on the other extreme, with that you say that are extremely fearful because of so many reincarnations, and that's kind of understandable. But there's a third group there that I feel that should be put in the middle. As the
Sorry.
one, there should be another group. You're talking there about extremes, and
Yeah.
there should be another group. I'm thinking out loud, okay? So please, I need your guidance too. There should
What
be
the other group?
there should be another group that wants somewhere in the middle that are kind of not looking towards dying, but kind of indifferent. If it
Indifferent.
happens, happens.
Yeah.
Because I believe that there are individuals who are, in fact, even if you are fearful, you have a sense of trust. So that's definitely different from the first group that dreads dying. So I would say that you have the ones that have that suicidal ideation, but you also have another group somewhere in the middle that is, what, for lack of a better word, I'm going to call it kind of indifferent, but mostly that they basically, yes, people that may be afraid, but also they have trust that something is okay. Am I making sense?
Yeah, I'm trying to think here of the indifferent because I think that what we have is a group of individuals that are too focused and too interested in the material life, and they refuse to think about death because they don't want to waste time thinking about death because they want to focus on the present life. And I don't know if that's the exact group
No,
of people that you are
no,
referring.
that's not a group of people because I said indifferent because lack of a better word. I'm talking about a group of people. You got the group of people that are definitely very much afraid of death. Okay, and then you have a group of people who are basically, well, they want to die, but they're basically that's suicidal ideation.
Yeah,
But then you also have another group of people who are knowledgeable about the process, the spiritual world, that are kind of I don't want to use indifferent, that are kind of trusting if that comes.
I think that the
Huh? Am I making sense or not?
I think that indifference, for lack of a better word, as to say, it happens when we are not facing that. If you put a scenario, let's say someone got a diagnosis of a terminal cancer. And then someone say, oh, I hope I die as fast as possible so I don't have to go through all the pain, all the difficulties associated with cancer. Let me go right now. That's someone who's wishing death, right?
Yes.
And then there's someone else who receives the same diagnosis, go through, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years of the struggle, go through all the chemotherapy, radiations, and all the tests and everything else. And after 5 years, this person, speaking with him or herself or with God, says, I will find a very good fight. I am tired. I am ready to go. If time is right, I'm not going to precipitate anything, but I'm quite comfortable going because I fought a good fight. There's a 2 different scenarios, the 2 individuals who kind of wish that, okay, but one have done what was supposed to do, the other one is just fearful of the challenge. Okay? Now, those 2 individuals may be completely indifferent until they have the diagnosis. And the moment they have the diagnosis, then they start to think about it. They cannot be indifferent any longer.
Okay. Okay. So, but
Yeah.
the one that wants to get it over with, that would be the one at the end here, wishing to die in order not to go through the tribulations.
I think that Elmo's point here is that you are indifferent until you are facing death.
Yeah, you don't have to think about it.
Yeah, until you don't have to think about it. Yeah, I lived with people in my family that had no belief in spiritual life and had no fear of death.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was interesting because they didn't want to talk about death also, right? Which to me shows fear of death,
Yes.
right? Because if you don't fear something, you can talk about it, right? We in Spiritism, we talk about death a lot because we talk about life in the spiritual world. So we talk about the process, we talk about how it happens, what happens on the other side. But it does not eliminate the fear for a vast majority of Spiritists, because still, even if it's known, it's really part of it is unknown, right? We don't know where we're going to end. We don't know who we're going to meet there. So the same way that when we have to move to another country, we are anxious, we fear because we don't know what we're going to find. Now, change from life to another plane of existence is a much bigger thing than moving to another country. So it's understandable that we have the fear.
So I have to share that one of the things I have learned in Spiritism, and I'm very grateful for that, very grateful, the fact that we're eternal. And I have to, in fact, I don't want to even use no longer the word, I don't use the word God, I don't use the word faith, because one of the things I have learned in Spiritism is trust. Trust. I believe in that we're eternal beings, and of all these things that I have read so far in so many years, I will be okay.
Yes.
So, and that I have to share with you that I learned here. I learned here, even when I go to my software group, you have make sure you have trust. That's in fact I have a block here in my at home that says trust, because this is why one of the learnings that I've gotten from Spiritism is trust. I
Yeah.
don't know. It makes me feel so trusting.
And that's exactly what we are doing here. Why we study? We study to know better about ourselves and about what awaits us, and what, to understand why we are where we are and what awaits us in the future, and knowing that we control our future, right? We acquire this knowledge and this understanding, and we prepare ourselves better
Exactly.
from when we return to the spiritual world. And yes, exactly that, understanding. And again, I like to say that it's more than belief, right? It's
Yes, yes,
I
yes. It's
know
more
that
than belief.
the spirit is eternal. I know that we are returning to the spiritual world, and I'm going to be exactly like I am the day before I go back to the spiritual world. And that I'm going to find myself if I continue doing what I'm doing. Of course, we have free will, we can always get lost. But if I continue to do what I'm doing, I'm sure I'm going to find myself in a decent place,
Of
right?
course.
A place that will give me opportunities to continue growing, right? And I think that's a very good thing that Spiritism brings to us. It's the knowledge.
I agree. I agree. I agree. You don't know how much I agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. And the next question is very interesting, because it addresses directly about Spiritism, right? That's a good one. Go ahead, Philip.
Is it necessary to acknowledge Spiritism and believe in spirit manifestations to ensure our happiness in the next life? If that were true, those who do not believe in them or who have not had the opportunity to learn anything about them would be disinherited, which would be absurd. Doing what is good is what ensures future happiness, and the good is invariably good, regardless of the path that leads to it. Belief in Spiritism helps our self improvement by cleaning up our ideas about our future. It hastens the progress and advancement of individuals and the masses because it enables people to ascertain what the future will be and is both a beacon and a source of support.
Mm-hmm.
Spiritism teaches us to bear our trials with patience and resignation, turns us away from actions that could delay our future happiness, and contributes to our reaching that happiness. However, it does not imply that we may not reach that same happiness without it.
Yes. That is the key question when we talk about Spiritism and the basics of Spiritism. Spiritism teaches us without charity there is no salvation. It is not without Spiritism there is no salvation. We see in the Gospel according to Spiritism, different from other religions and other beliefs that say that without the church there is no salvation. Spiritism teaches us only good ensures future happiness, and it doesn't matter where you are if you are doing good, because the good is invariably good, regardless of the path that leads to it. And it will be absurd that you need to follow Spiritism to find salvation, or which is an internal thing, right? So what we were just talking here with Paco, right? Spiritism helps us, help our self-improvement, help us understand where we are, how we are going to progress, what we're going to find, what is life in the spiritual world, why happens that people are rich, people are poor, and the differences in the world. But it does not imply that we may not reach the same happiness without it. We can, right? And we see, St. Francis of Assisi, right? A great evolved spirit That was way before Spiritism. To believe that Spiritism is the one that came to rescue humanity, no, it came to help us grow, but it is not the only path. There are many paths, and the path of goodness is the only path that is going to make us evolve. But this path of goodness can be achieved in very different paths, different roads, and that's what is important. Naomi said, it's the suffering before death that scares us. Yeah, I just saw your message now. Yes, exactly that. We are afraid of the suffering before death. We are afraid of the death itself. And not really afraid of what happens after death. But the struggles that will lead to the death of our physical body is what many people are afraid of. Yes, you are correct now. Okay. All right, we finished this item. We're going to temporary atonements now.
When atoning for faults in a new existence, does a spirit experience material suffering? If so, is it correct to say that the soul only experiences moral suffering after death? It is very true that when the soul is reincarnated, it is forced to suffer the trials of physical life. However, only the body experiences material suffering. You often say that when someone dies, that they no longer suffer, but this is not always true. A spirit no longer experiences physical pain, but depending on their imperfections, they may have to bear some severe moral suffering and may be even unhappier in a new life. Those who are greedy beg for bread and are prey to all the miseries of poverty. The proud experience all types of humiliation, and those who have abused their authority and treated subordinates poorly must obey an even crueler master. All the tribulations of life are atonements for the faults committed in a previous life. Useless they unless they are the consequences of faults committed in the present life. When you leave your present life, you will understand this. People who consider themselves happy on earth because they are able to satisfy their passions make little effort to improve themselves. Such ephemeral happiness is often atoned in the present life, but certainly it can be atoned in another life that is equally material.
Okay, so when we leave the physical body and we go back to the spiritual world, we carry with us who we are, right? We are the spirit. We have a physical body. We have a spiritual body. When the physical body is gone, our spiritual body still exists, and that's what we have in the spiritual world. But our struggles that we remain unresolved in the physical life are carried back with us to the spiritual world. But then we no longer have the physical body. So an example, we carry the profound hatred for someone that caused us a lot of pain in the physical world. We go back to the spiritual world carrying this hatred that we already had here. Now it becomes worse because in the spiritual world, we have no physical body to take care, to worry about. Because when we have the physical body, we have to sleep, we have to eat, we have to take care of it to survive. So it is a distraction of our moral struggles. When we go back to the spiritual world, we have no distraction of the physical body. So everything that we think is the hatred that we carry back with us. So it is no longer a physical suffering, not a material suffering, but it is a moral suffering that is many times worse. Now, of course, when we live a physical life and we went through a physical disease that is part of our progress, and let's say Elmo mentioned cancer, right? We experienced cancer, and we went through the whole treatment, and we tried the best to survive, and we end up returning to the spiritual world because of the disease. We don't carry the disease back to the spiritual world. We fix the problem, right? We had to go through the experience here, and we went through the experience, and it's over. We don't carry it. We are not carrying any moral consequences to the spiritual world. Now, the case of the one that gives up life and ends up asking for he or she to be euthanized or something like that, you are going to carry the consequences because you did not take full opportunity of the reincarnation to end that atonement or that trial that you had to go through. So we are going to go back to the spiritual world with the problems that we still carry with us back to the spiritual world. That's why Jesus told us, before you make a donation at the altar, go and reconcile with your enemy. Because if you go back to the spiritual world still with an enemy, you're going to continue to carry this hatred and mutual hatred and the problems there. Now, if you reconcile with the enemy, you no longer have that problem. You go back to the spiritual world free of that. And then the spirits talk to us about what happens in the future life, right? If we make life complicated for us in this physical life, we are going to come back to face the consequences. So, as they say here, those that are greedy beg for bread, and those that treated subordinates poorly must have an even crueler master. So the tribulations that we face in our life, many of them are consequences, are atonements for errors committed in previous life, unless they are consequence of errors committed in the present life, which is many times what happens, and people kind of refuse to see it or understand, right? People are going through pain and suffering and say, oh, that's probably because of what I did in my past life. Well, sometimes it's what we did in the present life that we are facing the consequences, but we sometimes don't want to face it, right? And again, it is a world of trials and atonements that we are living in. Trials are opportunities to learn new things and grow. Atonements are consequences of our errors in this incarnation or previous incarnations that we have to face the consequences. So not all diseases are atonements. They can be trials and they can be missions, right? Someone that goes through a disease that helps humanity evolve, you can see it as a mission. If you think of that famous actor, Christopher Reeve, right? The first Superman that became paraplegic in a horse accident, right? I don't know if it was a trial, an atonement, but definitely he used it to donate a lot of money to the development of the studies of how to address the issue of paraplegic and tetraplegic people, right? So you could imagine that he used that, he chose that as a mission to help those in need. Maybe it was not the case, maybe it was the case, but that's the example of some spirits that will choose to face some challenges as an opportunity for them to help humanity grow, humanity learn, science evolve. Of course, we can think of Steve Hawkins, right, that used his complete inability to use his physical body to bring us so many important studies to humanity. It looks to me that his was a mission also, right? And not an atonement or a trial. But looks to me, because this is the type of things that happens to the missionaries. But of course, I cannot guarantee. I know that some of missionaries we know. Mother Teresa was a missionary, and Gandhi was a missionary, that are clear. But some of these that went through these physical struggles, I imagine some of them did it as a mission. Okay. All right, let's do one more.
984. Are all major adversities in our currently earthly lives always an atonement for current faults committed by us? No. We have already told you that they are trials imposed by God or chosen by you in the spirit state before your reincarnations to atone for the faults committed by you in a previous life. No violation of God's laws, especially of the law of justice, ever remains unpunished, and a corrective measure will sooner or later always take place. If you do not correct it in the same life, you will certainly have to correct it in another. This is why individuals whom you view as fair minded are often tormented by the faults of their past.
So the question that Kardec asks is if the adversities in our current lives are always an atonement for current folks, and the answer from the spirits is no. We have the atonements from previous existences, right? So if I killed my brother in a previous incarnation, and we have this hatred one for the other, we come together to face each other, to learn to love each other, to overcome the difficulties of sharing their home and sharing our lives. It's an atonement. It's an opportunity to repair a mistake from the past, right? So again, trials and atonements. Trials are opportunities for us to learn things that we don't know yet. Normally, when a spirit is going through a trial, it faces it with much more resignation. Those that goes through atonement are much more common to revolt and to get frustrated by it. Again, as a general rule, of course, there are those that goes to trial and get desperate, and those that go through atonement with peace of mind because they have a better understanding. Us that study spiritism, we should be able to face our challenges in life with a different view, with a more calm view, right? Because we understand they are part of our growth, our progress. Of course, easy to say, we can learn it, we can have it in our minds, but when we try to bring to our hearts, we still cannot do it. So we still tend to revolt, tend to ask God why, right? Why me? Why did it happen? We're still in this imperfect state of evolution that makes us question things that happen to us in our present existence. But the reality is that the challenges we are facing are trials or atonements. Again, we all have small missions here, right? Normally, parents have the mission to educate their children. These are the smallest missions, but sometimes we don't even acknowledge the missions we have, or we do not consider them missions. But we all have a little bit of all of them: atonements, trials, and missions in our present life. Sometimes the mission is very small, but it's there. And trials and atonements are always there. Now, a world of trials and atonements is where evil prevails over goodness. A world of regeneration, which we are moving into, is where goodness prevails over evil. It doesn't mean that evil no longer exists. It will still exist, but goodness will prevail. So it will be a better world than what we live today. And we have some examples already of, let's say, of countries that are in a world of regeneration already, right? When there is less injustice, less poverty, less less difficulties that people face in their lives without the help and assistance of others. Still not perfect, far from perfect, because we are still imperfect spirits, all of us. But we already can see and understand how it looks, a world of regeneration where, you know, you have free education, you have free healthcare, you have the one that makes more money, the top of the pyramid is like 7-8 times more money than the bottom of the pyramid, not 100 or 5,000 times like in other countries, right? Or people at the top of the pyramid stealing money from those below. So, you know, a world of regeneration. Less people will try to take advantage of others, but still, evil still be there because it's still we need to learn from it and need to evolve from it. Okay? All right. We are going to stop here. Next week we continue with 985. This weekend, what we have is on Saturday, the USSF talk is by Andrea Marshall Neto from Miami. She's the responsible for Leal Publisher, the publisher that publishes Divaldo's books, and also responsible for the Fed publisher in the US that publishes the André Luiz and Emmanuel books. She's going to be talking about the Good Samaritan in the 21st century. That's Saturday, 11 a.m. through the United States Spiritist Federation YouTube page. This Sunday is the second Sunday of the month. We are going to be studying the Gospel according to Spiritism. Okay? Book club, we're still on vacations. We'll be back in 2 weeks, Dani. Is that the target?
Yes.
All right. So not this coming Wednesday, next Wednesday, right?
Yes, the 19th.
19th. Okay. The book is Ardous Ascension by Victor Hugo and Divaldo Franco. Carol, can you do our final prayer, please?
Sure. Thank you so much, John, for hosting. And thank you, Amo, also, and for everyone who is participating. Thank you, Philip, for reading for us this evening as well. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we give thanks to be together for our studies of the Spirit's Book, Book 4, Chapter 2, The Nature of Future Joys and Sorrows, and Temporary Atonements. As we evolve, we correct our mistakes and we make amends to get closer to perfection. There will be less regret and more happiness and satisfaction. At a certain level of evolution, we do appreciate learning and the overcoming of trials and atonements, and we will become less anxious and nervous. When we overcome selfishness, we will enjoy our families and spiritual friends who share our sentiments. It's relative happiness and virtuous living with goodness. Most of us are afraid of death based on instinctive qualities from early stages of primitive life, and we often carry this forward throughout our lifetimes. We may replace it eventually with faith and hope. In Spiritism, we have studied and have some understanding and know of the spiritual world, and we understand about physical death and the transition. Fortunately, we realize that we are eternal spirits. In our spiritual body, we will carry experiences and our vibrations in mental states, which we may feel and re-experience suffering and the consequences that may ensue. We should reconcile to be free in future lives of the obscurations and our faults. We give thanks to our spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us this evening. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us and for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, our counselors, our mediums, our workers, and all of our participants. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for world peace and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center, SGNY, and all Spiritus centers throughout the world, that they may grow, prosper, expand, and be protected throughout the day and throughout the night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to our family, our friends, loved ones, and co-workers. And may we remind ourselves now to go forth as beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and charity, which is love in action. May peace, prosperity, and love prevail. So be it.